The following is a special presentation from Live 5 News. Charleston 9, never forget.
We will never forget, just like 9/11. We will never forget.
10 years ago, we made a promise to never forget.
William Billy Hutchinson, Captain Mike Benke.
To never
Louis
forget the
Mulkey,
names of the 9
Mark
firefighters
Kelsey,
who made the ultimate
Batty.
sacrifice.
I saw my brother help somebody came out, he gone back in. Like, what happened?
We have not forgotten, and after tonight, neither will you.
You will know their names, their faces,
Earl,
their
Drayton.
last words.
I'll see you in the morning.
Hey girls, it's Daddy. I just want to see what you want to do for Father's Day.
And their lasting legacies.
The kids say they still talk about him. They love it.
We are here at the Memorial for the Charleston 9 on Savannah Highway in West Ashland.
Many of you drive past it every day, not knowing its significance.
Today, this is where 9 firefighters are honored.
10 years ago, the Sofa Superstore stood here before going up in flames. June 18th, 2007.
Charleston Fire, how can I help you?
Yes, sir. I'm at Sofa Superstore on Highway 17. There's a huge fire.
Crews were dispatched at 7:09 p.m. Acting Captain Mark Kelsey, Engineer Michael French, and firefighter Brandon Thompson were among the first firefighters on scene just 3 minutes later. None of them knew they wouldn't make it back home to their families that night. When was the last time you were here?
It was 7 years ago. I don't normally come to the memorial things because I honestly don't like remembering that day.
Paul Kelsey was 14, just out of school for the summer, when the fire came on the news. His mother broke it to him that his dad was probably inside.
She knew he responded to it, and when they did a head count, they didn't find him.
Before Paul went to bed that night, they knew.
There he is.
This is Paul's first time at the Charleston 9 Memorial in years. He says he wants to remember his dad alive and vibrant, not like this. And Paul has plenty to remember his dad by from pictures growing up.
They bring back good memories of when I used to hang out with my father.
And some of his dad's things that now belong to Paul, like his helmet that's never been washed.
It's the way it was when we got it.
So all this dirt and dings and marks are from your dad? Or the American flag that was draped over the Navy vet's casket as his remains were flown to his hometown in Indiana. It was the last funeral of the 9.
Every time I think about it, I get this way.
Kevin McLean was assigned by the state's Firefighters Association to help the Kelsey family after the fire. That included escorting Mark's body back home on 2 commercial flights so that he was never alone.
The captain told everybody on that plane while we were there and what we were doing.
2 passengers gave up their first-class seats to Kevin and a fellow firefighter. Though the typing has worn off, he still has those tickets from Mark's final flight.
And then when we get to where we're going, before anybody moved on that plane, we got to get off. And everybody on that plane remained seated until they took Mark Kelsey's body off of that plane and loaded him into that hearse.
I was kind of emotionless probably for the next few weeks or so. I didn't cry, I didn't smile, I didn't get sad or anything like that. I just didn't know how to take it. I did not know how to feel those emotions at that time.
Paul says he still focuses on work and school to distract himself from the lingering questions from that night here almost 10 years ago.
Why was it him? Why did it have to be him kind of thing? I'll never get to see him again. I never got to say goodbye. Those kind of things.
Words he'll never get to say, as his dad's memory is forever frozen in time.
No matter how hard I think, I can never think of a bad memory of him. I've never, ever recollect a bad memory of him.
That's something that will never change, Paul, you know? This is Acting Captain Kelsey's marker at the Charleston 9 Memorial Park.
Each of the 9 has one marking where they were found that night.
Captain Louis Mulkey was found just a few feet from Acting Captain Kelsey at the rear of the main showroom of the Sofa Superstore.
15's coming on, step.
When he arrived, the inside of the store was already filled with smoke. Captain Mulkey was the only one from Station 15 who did not make it out. But his spirit lives on in all of the lives he's touched.
He enjoyed life, he really did. He loved to have fun.
The memories are still fresh for Ann Mulkey.
We have a lot of pictures of him with the kids.
Memories of her son's short life on Earth. Captain Lewis Mulkey of Engine 15 was just 34 years old when he died, doing what he loved.
I talked to him before he was called to the fire. And I said, well, you're going to come home in the morning or are you going to school? And he said, nope, I'm coming home. I'll see you in the morning. And that was his last words to me.
When Lewis Mulkey died in the Sofa Superstore fire, Engine 15 lost a leader, but so did Summerville High School.
Loved every minute of being here and coaching them. And he would not go back to college because he was torn. He couldn't leave his job at the fire department. He couldn't do that. And he didn't want to give up coaching.
Mulkey was an athlete himself at Summerville High School, graduating in 1991. He returned to his alma mater in 2002 as an assistant coach in basketball and football. He was on the bench in March 2007 when the Green Wave lost in the state championship.
He told them, he said, this is not your year. It's okay, because next year's going to be your year. And it was.
The coach was right, but he wouldn't be there to see it. When Summerville played for the title again in 2008, he wasn't in the building, but Lewis Mulkey's spirit was everywhere.
Well, they all had the black hats on that night.
With students in fire helmets chanting his name, and a symbol of Mulkey's courage sitting on the team bench, the players fulfilled their coach's promise and won the state title. Now, 10 years later,
the kids say they still talk about him. They love it. So many have so many memories and stories that we have not even heard yet.
In 2013, Lewis Mulkey was inducted into the Summerville High School Athletic Hall of Fame, and they still bring the fire helmet out for home basketball games on the court now known as the Firehouse.
We walked in, and that was it. The tears just came. It was beautiful.
In December of last year, the school rededicated the gym in honor of the captain and the coach.
7:15 p.m. Engine 16 pulls up with Captain Mike Benke and firefighter Melvin Champagne. Champagne's sister turned on the TV, never expecting it would be the last time she'd see her brother alive.
So I turned on the news and I saw what happened.
The night of the Sofa Superstore fire, Pamela Wiggins watched her brother, Melvin Champagne, on live TV.
I saw my brother help somebody came out, but then, like, he gone back in. Like, what happened?
It was the last time she saw him alive. She remembers dialing his phone number all night.
But I kept calling that phone. I kept calling it. He never answered.
Melvin Champagne answered his own calling. His passion was helping people.
Melvin will go beyond and backward to do anything, help a person, save a person, it doesn't matter.
Melvin Champagne was a Charleston firefighter for 2 years, working out of Station 16 here in West Ashley. Inside the building, his memory lives on with a plaque and picture hung up on the wall. Loved ones tell me he didn't grow up dreaming of one day becoming a fireman, but as he got older, they say he realized it was a way to support his family and serve his community. Pamela has found peace with her brother's passing, but her mother never will.
Oh, he mean everything.
Miss Stella Reagan has early onset Alzheimer's. She doesn't remember the night of the fire, but she does remember her son.
He's gonna be back home.
Who she believes will one day return home. Melvin was an aspiring pastor with an ear for music. His uncle and mentor, Hercules Champagne, says his nephew always walked by faith.
And we go through the Bible and talk about the Lord.
Melvin talked to the Lord while trapped inside the building. His last words, a prayer.
Jesus' name, amen.
Before his radio went silent. Melvin is survived by his 3 children, Reuben, Isaiah, and oldest daughter Evian, who Skyped us from her home in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh man, he just would literally brighten up a room.
Evian was 14 when her father died. Now she has a baby girl who will one day learn how her grandfather died, but more importantly, how he lived.
He would just bring so much joy into anything.
10 years later, this family is moving forward, knowing Melvin is beside them.
I feel like he went home for a reason, and I mean, he's still with me, regardless of if I can't call him or not. He's still there.
I always say he was my hero because I didn't know my brother had all that in him, but you know, he had him in him. So that's why I say the hero. Yeah.
You hear firefighter Melvin Champagne's last words. In Jesus' name, amen. Moments later, you hear from Fire Chief Rusty Thomas indicating for the first time that his firefighters are in trouble.
By 7:23 p.m., smoke and fire could be seen above the West Showroom. That's the area we're standing in right now. Later, this is where Champagne, Benke, and French were found, not far from an exit door that was padlocked shut. French's mother says she would give anything to hold her son one last time.
When I found out that I was expecting him, I waited so anxiously for 9 months to hold him in my arms. And now it's like I'm right back in that spot again. Except for this time I've been waiting 10 years just to hold him in my arms.
10 years holding on to only memories and photographs of the son she called Mikey.
Never wanted to be anything but a firefighter from the time he was 2 years old.
Diane French still has all of the Matchbox fire truck cars Mikey played with and collected as a little boy. By age 14, Michael became a volunteer firefighter with the Moncks Corner Rural Fire Department. Diane would drive him to the station and to fires until he was old enough to drive himself.
Had a little red light that we'd throw on top of my car, and he'd come in 1, 2 o'clock, it didn't matter what time it was, knock on my door, and we'd jump in my little car and take off.
For Brandy Clark and Jean Dangerfield, Mikey was not only a little brother, but also the peacemaker of the family.
He was quiet. He was the baby.
He was very quiet.
"15 years ago, Ben Waring, who is now the fire chief of the Pine Ridge Fire Department, was coming up through the ranks with Michael, who he calls Frenchie. The two became fast friends, serving first at Pine Ridge, then for the city.
He was probably one of my closest friends that I had at the time of the tragedy took place. So we were kind of always together, on, off the job, boating, hunting, fishing.
Waring says Michael Frenchie French talked about his wife, his kids, and doing what he loved, fighting fires. In honor of Michael, the Pine Ridge Fire Department on Jedburgh Road renamed it the Michael French Fire Station.
Also, Jedburgh Road from I-26 all the way to Highway 176 is now the Michael French Memorial Highway.
Because he got to fight fires, which was his passion, and he got to play like a little boy. And that was, to him, the world.
Captain Mike Benke's family can also find some peace knowing he died doing what he loved. All of his children are following his lead, putting their own lives in danger to serve the community. Captain Mike Benke was all about family. Living by a calendar full of soccer games and cheering on the River Dogs. Kim Benke describes her late husband as a hero, but more importantly, as a man who was committed.
Committed to his family, his job.
Job and family were connected.
On our off days, we would go to the fire station and meet all those guys or play on the truck.
And she'd talk with her dad about becoming a paramedic. Now she's a county paramedic, often running calls with her dad's fellow firefighters, men she calls his brothers.
The love and support has been great. I think he'd be very proud.
With public service in their blood, all his children are reaching their goals. She works security for a Homeland Security contractor. Son Hunter is a city firefighter. It's a different department now. But Kim knows all too well first responders face inherent dangers. Kim recently attended the National Fallen Firefighters Conference, sharing with other families who've experienced the same loss. They never know what will trigger a memory, but Kim says she won't let the past consume her life. They're new grandchildren who will never meet Captain Mike Benke, but they know his story.
She loves putting flowers on his grave.
They hold close the Benke commitment to job and family as they move forward.
Between 7:15 p.m. and 7:20, Engine 19 arrives on the scene with engineer Brad Batty, firefighter Earl Drayton, and Captain Billy Hutchinson on board. At 7:30 p.m., firefighter Brandon Thompson radios for help. This marker represents where Brandon Thompson was found. But he shouldn't have been here at all. You see, on the night of the fire, he was covering a friend's shift right here.
The night of the Sofa Superstore fire, Frank Thompson got a call from the Somerville fire chief.
As we were watching the news, I said no. And he told me, he said, I think Brandon's in the fire. So we came on down.
His son Brandon was the final firefighter to be carried out of the building.
We stood right there to the end. And the way the men worked together to bring each fireman out, I mean, you could ask for more respect. They honored him well.
Thompson volunteered with the Pine Ridge Fire Department and became a captain there, working with his best friend, Chief Ben Waring. Waring spoke to Thompson for the last time the morning of the fire.
He said, all right, well, give me a call later on. I want to talk to you about some wedding stuff, and never got to make that call again.
Waring was supposed to be Thompson's best man. Rachel Cole was Thompson's fiancée at the time of the fire. They were supposed to be married 4 months later.
It changes your life forever, and you can either take it and let it run you down, or you can take it and let it change your life for the positive.
Today, Cole is married with stepchildren. Cole decided to volunteer and give back to the people who were there for her after the fire.
Really dove into the community to give back because there was such a giving from the community for us families when the tragedy happened.
Brandon Thompson's death and dedication have not been forgotten. The Pine Ridge Fire Station here in Myers Road has been renamed. It is now called the Brandon Thompson Fire Station. Myers Road has also been renamed in Thompson's honor. It's now called the Firefighter Brandon Thompson Highway.
It's been a long time. It's something you don't forget. It's there. But I'm proud of him.
Knowing what a loving and kind individual he was and how dedicated he was to this community, to his family and to his friends is definitely what I would like him to be remembered for.
Just after 7:30 p.m., a call for help goes out over the radio, followed by a message believed to be for one of the men's wives.
I love you.
James Earl Drayton was the oldest firefighter killed that day. He was 56 and loved fighting fire so much he was on his third retirement. His wife Kim tries not to think too much about the day Earl died, but instead of the life she once shared with him.
Great husband, great father, great grandfather. Would help you in any way he could.
Kim and Earl Drayton were married for about 7.5 years.
I think this one was Jamaica.
She says Earl loved to eat and relax.
He is relaxing in that. We were in Haiti.
The week of the fire, they were getting ready for their third cruise.
He was packed to the max. I remember him coming into the room and looking at me and laughing at me because I was still trying to get myself together. That was about a week prior to his death.
The morning of his death, he kissed her goodbye and told her he would talk to her later.
The day went on. I spoke to him about 3:30 concerning an issue. And that was the very last time I spoke with him.
She finished her day, went home, went to bed. Around midnight, there was a knock at the door.
I saw a chaplain. I saw one of the firefighters. I didn't think anything of it.
She says they wanted to know if she knew Earl Drayton.
I said, okay. And they said it was a fire. They just went around. And I finally said, well, what about a fire? And that's when they said, well, they can't find him. And that was, wow. That was hard.
Kim says Earl died doing what he loved.
He loved being a fireman. Didn't want to drive a truck. Any of those things. He just wanted to fight fire.
Kim says faith has played a tremendous role in helping her to cope all of these years.
It was rough the first few years, but as time has passed, it's been good. God's been good. Yeah, he's been really good to me.
Kim has not remarried, but she has found a new love. She started riding motorcycles a few years ago and has traveled to Canada and Florida. Niagara Falls is her next adventure. She says Earl would have wanted her to continue to enjoy life.
He would want us to keep living. Yeah, he would want us to keep living.
And Brad was the first firefighter they found that night. And all these years, his wife has chosen to grieve privately and take care of their 2 young children. Now, for the first time in 10 years, she's finally ready to share some of the details of their life together.
Brad had that kind of dry humor, made you laugh. He could tell a joke that you would think is not funny, but then you'd like, I get it, and it would just make you laugh. Never had a mean bone in his body. A lot of these firemen, this was extra side work for them, is what it was. You just worked the Broadway shows, set the sets and the lights and the rigging.
It's joyful to be together.
When I first heard about the fire and all the stations that were combined, I was like, which of our guys are in this? I'm proud of them because they rushed right in. They didn't hesitate, they didn't ask, they just went and did their job.
These markers represent where engineer Brad Batty and firefighter Earl Drayton were found. The two were only 40 feet from the front door.
Their captain, Billy Hutchinson, is even further back in what was the rear of the main showroom. 10 years ago on Father's Day, Haley Hutchinson was visiting her grandparents in Connecticut. She thought about calling her dad, Captain Billy Hutchinson, but since she'd be back in Charleston the next day, she decided against it. Hours before the deadly fire, as Haley and her twin sister Aubrey were preparing for their flight home, she recalls something felt wrong. She also cherishes this picture from Disney World of a happier time with her dad. She takes it with her wherever she goes. She knew the work he did was dangerous, but it never crossed her mind that one day he wouldn't come home.
What do you feel cheated out of? Have there ever been instances where you got a feeling that he is there or he's near?
7:34 p.m. Fire Chief Rusty Thomas orders firefighters to evacuate the building.
Everybody out of the building. We still can't find Captain 15.
As a last-ditch effort, firefighters smash the front windows to clear out smoke and give the firefighters inside a chance to escape. Within minutes, the showroom goes up in flames. By 8 p.m., the roof of the showroom had collapsed. By 10 p.m., the fire is under control, but the full devastation won't be known until early the next morning, when all 9 are finally accounted for.
10 years later, there are plans to add on to the site.
A new fire station will be built next to the lot beside the park. It's already in the design phase.
The city is working with the families of the Charleston 9 about the future of the park and intends to add more memorials.
Thank you for joining us for this special presentation of Live 5 News. And thank you to the Charleston 9 and their families for their many sacrifices.